going to start the recording there, and then it'll just be a minute or so. I'm looking for something to talk about.
Yeah.
Okay, make sure that when we're going aggressive and trying to freeze someone that we actually have ammo to do it, so that we're not just running out halfway through. So we want to make sure we're reloading frequently and just anytime we're not actively shooting at someone. Okay, I like the attempt at the wall there. Alright, so in general, make the goal to, like, we'll talk more on this if it keeps coming up, but for now, just keep in mind that tanks typically aren't the things that we want to be focusing a ton. So, for example, going for the Reinhardt when you're on the front lines is fine, but right there when you went on the Roadhog might not have been the best when you could have gone for support or DPS. We'll go more into depth on that if that continues to be a problem.
Oh no. God damn it.
Okay, when you go for that ultimate, probably it's usually a good idea to wall people off so that they can't run away and get out of it. So typically it's a good idea to either do it before you ult or after, immediately after you ult, to just wall people. Watch your ammo, right? So anytime you have a lull in time where there's nothing else to do, you just want to be reloading so you have ammo for when you can actually see people.
Okay. I always forget about the ammo with Mei, and then I freeze them and they don't die because I need to reload.
Hey, ice block usage so far has been looking pretty solid. There coming into that fight, we probably could have used our wall to split them in half. I saw us using it on the Reinhardt like that, and that's going to be what we're going to look to continue to try to do. There we had a pretty good opportunity to do when they were in kind of the left doorway, but we didn't go for it. So we just want to make sure we're trying to go for splits, because that really just makes it really easy to kill people, right? Okay. Watch our ammo again, right? Just make sure we're reloading. Just as a really good habit to get into. Okay, right about now we're looking to, like, split them in half. Usually it's like kind of one of the first things that we're looking to do. Okay.
No.
Yeah, okay, that's unfortunate. There, we backed pretty far up when it probably wasn't necessary that we backed that far up, as well as the fact they were kind of standing very far out in the open. So, we want to make sure we're using cover properly. That's probably was something we talked about last time, right? Where, you know, good positioning is the usage of cover, whereas bad positioning is the absence of cover. So we want to make sure we're not just walking out in the open, and then that's how we died there. Okay, make sure we're not dropping from high ground unnecessarily, so pay attention to where you are and make sure we're not dropping. Keep your ears open. There's a Reinhardt that was like right next to you and we couldn't hear him, which is partially because I was talking, but you know, so make sure we're listening.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay. Make sure we're not staying in our ice block for extended periods of time if we're, you know, we're not in a whole bunch of danger. So like
Oh god.
So like when we were in our ice like before, once we get to full HP and we don't have anybody looking at us, that's where we can just leave it and cancel it.
Cute.
Okay. There we just got a
No.
little too aggressive. We just kind of ran straight into them. Make sure we're not doing that because that's not going to be very productive. It's probably going to get us killed pretty fast. Okay, so
Oh my god.
we're getting killed a lot when we're going for our ultimates, and that's because we're getting way too aggressive when we're going for them, right? So when we're going for ultimate, a lot of times we're leaving cover, we're walking on the open, we're walking ahead of our tanks, right? And then because of that, they're just killing us super fast. So we want to make sure we're being a lot safer when we're going for our ultimates. All right. Okay, make sure once we've frozen someone that we're shooting immediately. We're not just continuing to freeze them. Continuing to freeze someone does not actually do anything once they are frozen. Because it doesn't actually, the next refreeze doesn't begin until after they're done being frozen, right? So you might as well just shoot right clicks at them. There's been a couple times where we've just reacted slightly late to it.
Oh my god.
Okay, there we ice blocked a little bit early, even though we weren't really in too much danger, right? All right. Yeah, so with ice blocks, just make sure, we're using them when we're in danger or we need healing. Those are really the two times that we are using them. When we're about to die or if we need healing to get healed up. When Monkey dove in, we only took like 50 damage, so it's not like we were in too much danger. And in that case, if we don't use our ice block immediately, right, and we hold on to it for a little longer, then that might mean that we can freeze them and then therefore maybe, actually, kill them, right? And then that can get them. If Reinhardt's trying to run away from you, wall him so he can't run away, right? That's just what we could have done there to try to get him so he can't run away from you and Narissa. Good ice block. For the most part, our ice blocks are really solid. Okay, I like that when we're going for our ultimate that we're double freezing people and we're kind of going, we're using our left click 2 to freeze them because that'll freeze them like 2 times faster. So I like that we're doing that. Though we want to make sure we're trying to, plop it in between as many people as possible. We're not just throwing it at like one person, preferably. Why don't we just leave, don't get in the game real quick. We're just going to go over some stuff in the training range. Do you mind letting me know what your sensitivity and your DPI is?
Okay. Same controls, right?
Yeah, you see it in control or in your options and controls, and then your DPI. You either it'd be helpful if you already knew it, but then if not, you can see that in your like whatever mouse software you have.
Yeah, I didn't know that I had to mess with those. So
Yes.
it says sensitivity 15.
Oh, okay. That is a very, very massively high sensitivity. Are you possibly have you not adjusted your DPI either? Are you aware of what DPI is?
No, I'm not. So
Basically, just DPI is basically just your sensitivity, but for your regular mouse. Like think of it like when you're just moving out of your game and you're just moving your mouse around. That's how fast your mouse is moving. So that it's just they combine when you have a high DPI and high mouse sensitivity. But in any case, honestly, we can just completely ignore DPI for now and just say that right off the bat, having a 57 sensitivity is a pretty insanely high sensitivity to have. So for comparison, I have a 4.5 sensitivity, and I would say that mine is yeah, I'd say that mine is a pretty solidly low sensitivity, which a lot of the times on characters that require precision and aim is where you want to go, is you want to go a little bit lower. So the problem that I was seeing us having is a lot of the times you were trying to aim, and we were just like, it was just so difficult for us to stay on top of someone. We are just kind of doing this
Yeah.
when we're aiming, and then it just made like aiming so difficult. And I'm like, okay, she probably either has like a super high sensitivity, or just like we need to talk a lot about aim here. But yeah, so sensitivity wise, or I guess on that note, do you have what size mouse pad would you say that you have? Do you have a large mouse pad or small mouse pad? I don't need the direct like sizes.
Um, I think it's like two of my hands next to each other, but my hands are pretty small, so I
Okay,
would say
two of your hands.
small.
I would
Yeah.
probably recommend getting a larger mouse pad and then lowering your sensitivity. So mouse pads can be pretty cheap. I mean, it's it's up to you. Most of the time, like I think the one I'm using currently like spreads across my entire desk and was like $15, and it's also like decorated with like Rick and Morty on it. So you could probably get
Nice.
them pretty cheap. Like to get them. And you'd want a larger mouse pad if you're trying to lower your sensitivity, because if you have a lower sensitivity, then your arm has to move around more to travel more space. So like just for me to do a full 360 here, my hand basically has to go across my entire mouse pad, which is pretty large. Whereas if you're trying to do a 360, you might just like move an inch and then just do like a full like a 360 there, right? I have I have a DPI button on my mouse, and that's basically what it looks like here. It's like really difficult to keep straight with that high of a sensitivity, right? And it just makes it much more difficult to aim. So you want to make sure that or I probably very highly recommend lowering it a little bit. Now on tanks, you can keep it slightly higher, like on main tanks. I think you played last time we went over Reinhardt, and what did we go over Zarya? Um, or something like that, right? So yeah, we went over Reinhardt and Zarya, right? The like on a Reinhardt, it won't matter as much, but I would still definitely say 50 is too high, even on a character like Reinhardt. So lowering that will very drastically help you with your aim, and it'll allow you to be much more precise with how you're moving. So if you need help adjusting it, I can real quick just link you up with a YouTube video, and then that you can look at to just like how you can try to find a sensitivity.
Oh, I just put it down to five. I don't know if
Nope, that's fine as
that's
well. No issues there, but just keep in mind that you're really like just guaranteed your current mouse pad size is not gonna be able to kind of sustain that. Like if you went in a game right now and tried to move around, you're just like barely going to be able to operate. So maybe for the moment you can just tone it down like halfway or something like that. I don't know like how big your mouse pad is, but like you basically tone it down to where you can still manage, and then once you get a bigger mouse pad, then you can bring it down even further. Um, but yeah, let me just do this real quick. Just grab you the video, and then we can continue.
okay.
All right, so there you go. You just watch a video, look at that. Okay, now let's move on to some more aiming stuff. So once we get all that out of the way, then you can work on this a little bit. So what we're talking about here is called crosshair placement. Are you familiar with that term?
No.
No? Okay. No, you're good. So crosshair placement is essentially placing your crosshair in the best place possible to hit the most and easiest shots, right? So the first major step to this is making sure that we're aiming at head level on characters that can hit headshots, right? On a character like Reinhardt, it doesn't matter, right? Because you're not going for headshots anyways. On a character like Zarya, doesn't matter because you're not going for headshots. When you're just using your left click, doesn't matter because this doesn't do headshot damage. But when you're trying to go for your right clicks, we want to hit headshots because right clicks do much more damage when they're hitting, and most characters that hit headshots can do much more damage when they're hitting headshots versus body shots. So, for example, that means the difference between when you freeze someone, right? When we just freeze a regular person, that's the difference between oh, they didn't freeze all the way between getting the kill, and if you just go for the body shot, we don't get the kill, right? So that's pretty massive, and we want to make sure we're actually hitting headshots. So how we do that easily is we aim at head level. If we're aiming down here, then that means we have to adjust further, and when we have to adjust further, this is a much harder shot to hit than it is to just go to the side a little bit, right? The less adjustment there is, the easier shot it is to hit. So let's say just say we're spamming down the corridors, or we're shooting into shields, or you're shooting into base enemies, right? We're just aiming down here, we're just hitting bodies all the time, but we aim up a little bit, we're aiming at head level, we're just doing the exact same stuff. Now we're just naturally hitting headshots and doing a lot more damage. Okay. Now on top of that, we're also going to aim where we know people are going to be. So if the bot's on the top right, we're going to pre-aim top right. So when he turns around the corner, we're already aiming at his head, and it's a very easy shot to hit, right? He's top left, so we're going to aim top left, already aiming at head level. So when we turn the corner, right, already aiming directly at his head. These guys, a little bit of a slope, right? They're down a little bit, so the same way we'd look down on a Torb and up on a tank, they're going to aim a little bit higher. We're going to look down on these guys, so when we turn the corner, already looking straight at his head, right? Easy shots just because we're making it easy. Now, it's not going to be nearly as easy if you have a 50 sensitivity, so I'd very highly recommend working on that, because even if you have good crosshair placement, if we're jittering around super hard, like that's going to be really difficult to hit those shots, even if we do have it in the semi-right place, right? All right. So besides that, walling, real quick, just discuss that. I think so far we have the general idea with our walls, but we just want to I'll just go through some quick walling schools. Just we want to look to wall off people. That's what your wall's going to get value out. You're going to get value out of your walls like 3 out of 4 times by walling off people. Sometimes you can use it to like protect yourself or to protect your team or something like that. But a lot of times you're just going to use it to cut off people's escapes and split them in half. So let's say the whole enemy team is standing right around here, right? What we do is we cut them in half, or we cut off like just the Reinhardt or just their tanks or something like that. And then what that allows us to do is we can just like run at them and freeze them, and then they can't get healing, they can't get, they can't shoot at them, and then that means that our team gets to shoot basically at the Reinhardt for free, right? He's just gonna be sitting there shielding and trying to back up, and then that means that we've just split them, we've just separated them, which is gonna be very, very valuable for your team, right? So we're gonna be looking to do that very often. Preferably, we're going to be doing that when they're in a place to where you can get both of the corners of your wall behind something. So for example, look at this wall right here. This wall doesn't really do much because they can just run around it, right? They can run around it on either side, so therefore it's not going to do a whole lot. When we put it right here, now when we put up wall, there's absolutely nowhere for them to run, right? They can't run over there, they can't run over there, they're just cut off completely, right? So preferably, that's usually what we're going to try to do. But if it's not an option, we line it up with one wall. So if right here where it's too wide, where we can't reach both sides, we just put it on one side, right? Rather than just plopping it straight in the middle here, we try to put it on one wall so that we have it over here, but it's not over here, right? So we just want to make sure we're putting the edges on walls so they can't run. No, excuse me. So they can't run away from them, right? Pay attention to the where it's lined up on the floor here. It's gonna allow you to place it a lot easier when you're paying attention to this thing, and just that's how we're gonna look to place it a lot of times. You can do it in doorways as well. Just do that real quick, right? And then that splits them in half, right? Push in, freeze the person that you split, freeze them, kill them. Sometimes when we were freezing people, we would just be pretty delayed with it. Like we would freeze someone, and then we would keep freezing them, and then we would shoot afterwards. Keep in mind that if you keep freezing someone and keep freezing them, this doesn't do anything because the freeze and kind of basically it doesn't start refreezing them until they're done being frozen. So the best combo to go for is just to freeze them and then shoot. Is to freeze them and then shoot, right? We just want to get used to that and just kind of get used to the timing of it so that we can do it as fast as possible, right? Without having a delay, which sometimes we had that delay. When we go for our ultimate, make sure we're walling people off. Usually it's going to be you're going to wall them off from behind. So for example, let's say we're trying to use our ultimate and we'll just let these guys turn around real quick. So these guys are in front of us. They're trying to run away. We can wall here real quick, ult so that they can't run away, and then we'd freeze them. We'd twice freeze them so they freeze extra fast, right? And then we get all the headshots, right? That's just kind of the basic combo they're going to look to go for. You can wall either before or after you ultimate, depending on the situation, right? Make sure that when we are going for our ultimate, that we remembered to still use cover, right? I believe we would have talked about cover usage last time. I just take a look at the notes real quick. Yes, we did, right? We talked about cover usage, so we want to make sure we're not just running out in the open, because that's how we died twice when we used our ult. We just kind of did this, where we're like, we went for ult and we just kind of ran at them in a straight line, running out in the open, and then that got us killed, right?
Yeah.
Um, Besides that, I think you have a decent grasp on when to use your left click versus when to use your right click. I think we're doing good there. Um, I think you have a pretty decent grasp on your shift usage so far. The only thing is just making sure sometimes we're not, like, sometimes we actually use it too often. But besides that, we seem to have pretty good survivability in knowing when to use it. And then, yeah, well, we can you probably look to go ahead and get into another game now.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, if you did lower your sensitivity by a little bit, maybe just hop in a training range just so you can get used to it like a little bit before you're hopping the game. Just keep in mind that it will take time to get used to it. I would say like if you're hating it on day one, just give it a couple days, and then after a couple of days, you will get used to it, and you'll be able to. Basically, that's when you'll be back up to where you were before in terms of aiming after like 2 or 3 days roughly. Just don't expect it to work perfectly the first day, because you just have to get used to a completely different style of aiming, because
Yeah.
now you're basically going from just using your wrist, right, where you're just moving your wrist back and forth, to using your entire arm, which but by the way, it's just both healthier, right, for you, because I can stop carpal tunnel if you're familiar with that. And then also is just going to be more accurate, but it will be different. So you're gonna have to get used to the differentness. If you feel like you prefer a slightly higher sensitivity, which is completely fine, unless it's like 50 is a little high, but people can still prefer a little bit higher of a sensitivity, in which case you can just, mess around with it, put a little bit higher if you want, but I would still definitely recommend going nowhere near 50. I'd probably say like 10 is like the max of being reasonable.
Okay. Yeah, I have it at 7 right now,
All
and
right.
it's so different.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god.
Yep.
But yeah, the mouse doesn't go super far.
Yep, which is
Like,
gonna essentially, just because it doesn't go as far, it allows you to place it where you want it more of the time, rather than it just going all over the place, right? Which is kind of what we saw a little bit with our aim on the first match that we were in, where we just kind of we'd aim at someone's head, and then we would like move our hands just like half a millimeter to the side, and then all of a sudden we would be off of their head, right? Whereas to once we put it on their head with our hand, we actually have to physically move our hand even further to like be off of their head, right? Rather than just like half a millimeter.
yeah, it's super different. It doesn't delay like the shot, right?
Having it slower, no, it should not delay the shot. You're going to move at a faster speed. You're going to have to like use your whole arm now, and just be like and move it around kind of with more effort. If that makes sense, you're going to have to put a little bit more effort into moving your arm around now. Like I mean, I play games all the time, and I don't get tired with it, but I mean, especially if you're new to it, it might be slightly tiring if you're needing to use your whole arm rather than just your wrist. But it's not going to make your shots any slower. No.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's happened to me before that my arm gets tired when I play
Mm.
Zenyatta, especially
Mm.
because I use my shift a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why that just makes it hurt somehow.
Yeah, when it's a little bit more aim intensive, I mean, like that might mean that like you on a higher sensitivity, you would basically be like trying to hold it steady more often, and when you have to hold it steady, then that can like to hold it steady on a higher sensitivity, you kind of have to tense your arm up, right? So it doesn't move, right? And then that would probably that tensing up would use muscles, and therefore would make you tired. So that would be kind of the reasoning behind it.
Yeah, that's
Now
crazy.
entering King's Row.
a lot of effort.
捨てても
Right
妙
beside
利
you.
は捨てず
Should just focus on Reinhardt if I want to get better for now.
Can you say that one more time?
Do you think I should just focus on Reinhardt if I want to get better?
It's up to you. Like I said at the very beginning, if you're trying, like if your goal is to get better, then that I would say is a pretty good idea because if you, because Reinhardt and Mei are pretty different, right? They're not very similar, which means that it's going to be pretty, it's gonna take some time to learn them differently, right? And therefore, you might be better off just learning one or the other, or sticking on the tank role, or sticking on just on the DPS role. But it's really up to you and what your goals are. If you're just trying to have fun and you have fun playing Mei, play Mei, right?
I just get tired of tank sometimes when I
Yeah.
really want to get better at playing him.
Rather than peeking them, because now they know that you're there and you're waiting with the wall,
Okay.
you might want to just stay behind the wall so they can't see you, right? So there we kept going left and right, and they could see us there, and they were like, oh snap, okay, Mei's gonna wall us, right? So what we can do is just
Yeah.
hide, that way they don't see you. Also, if it looks like they're not gonna walk past the wall, oh,
Oh my gosh.
if it looks like they're not gonna walk past, we might as well just like keep shooting. We just might as well shoot.
Oh god.
The battle continues. You're a lifesaver.
Nice right clicks. Watch the reload.
True. I don't know why it's so difficult to remember that.
Yeah, it's because you play Reinhardt a lot, right? Which on Reinhardt you don't have to remember to reload.
Yeah, that's true. Is there like a DPS kind of like Reinhardt, you
Who
think?
doesn't need to reload? Or are you saying DPS
No.
in playstyle?
Yeah.
Not necessarily, because DPSs are different than tanks, right? They're not the same. Like they operate differently and have different goals and objectives. Now there's a lot of stuff that will translate. It's just gonna translate a little bit differently, right? So that's why it's slightly harder to learn a character from a different role than it is to learn just a character from a role you're familiar with. Okay. Put a lot of concentration into your walls. They are probably one of the most important parts of you like playing Mei, just because basically it's a really powerful cooldown when you use it. So we just want to concentrate on using it well.
不许走。
My shots find their marks.
Enemy seen.
Die wieder.
Yeah, I struggle with the walls.
Hmm.
I just started doing so fast and I
Yep.
don't really
Don't
think about it.
don't think about it, right? Put thought and effort into it, right? If you need to take a second or two to line it up, don't just take it out and then place it immediately. Think about like when we want to use it, even before we take it out, right?
可以挡住
Oh, that's a decent wall, right? Just stopping the soldier from getting across. Nice shot. Here we're putting ourselves pretty far back. Make sure we're like up with our team. Oh, good wall to wall off the soldier.
Oh
And
my
that's
god,
it.
the sensitivity. It's like so
I mean,
different.
it's very different, but at the same time, I'm also noticing more right click landing, right?
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So, in general, there when we rolled the soldier, that was a good idea to wall. Though with the
Oh my
placement,
come back. 我感觉好多了。
oh, did we
Yeah.
intentionally?
Oh my
So there we just pushed a little bit far for that kill. Now like we could have won the duel there, but I mean it also is a pretty far place to run to, which would mean that they could just walk back from spawn and kill you pretty easily. The wall on the soldier was good, though we probably could have placed it on the like in the choke point, right, where we talked about having both the sides of the walls hitting like a corner, right, hitting an object rather than just having none of them hitting something. Right? So like right where Reinhardt's standing would be a really perfect place to be putting it, right? Yep, that's good.
这样可以打击他们。
Really good wall, right? Because then you see like, oh,
Uh,
just barely escaped there.
yeah.
冻住，不许再往。
All right.
Dang.
Dude, last time did we talk about how to tell whether or not a fight's won or lost? Is that something we
Yeah, we
discussed? Yep.
did.
So that would be
I
an
was just
instance.
looking to the covers. I don't know why I didn't
Yeah.
check.
So in that instance, that would just be awareness, right? And we saw that, or in that instance, we were down like 3 people, and then that meant that was like a lost fight already, right? So we probably shouldn't be using our ult when the fight's lost. Here you see where your wrist is at, right? That'd be a perfect place to wall, right? Anytime someone walks through that. Or if you're just trying to run away, you can just wall them off. Currently we're down a bunch of people, so that might be what we want to be doing here. Nice shots. I think already we're just hitting more right clicks just with the things we've talked about.
Uh, I didn't mean to click. Damn it.
Nice shots. Oh, already like you just see all those shots we're hitting now, right? Whereas like last game we were in like very little of them are connecting. In general, positioning wise, where Mei likes to position is close, right? Because Mei wants to be close so that she can land her walls well. She wants to be close so that she can freeze people. She wants to be close so that she can use her ultimate. So in general, where I'd like to see you positioning is basically right behind your tanks, right? In this case, probably your Reinhardt, but if not, you don't have Reinhardt, just right behind your tanks, because that way you're going to be able to be up on the front line and help them like be in the best place possible, right? Whereas a lot of times that we are a little far back, right?
这样可以挡住他们。
Have you learned to turn your wall yet?
Like, with doubly?
Yep, you double click it. So you're gonna use it like that when basically you're trying to get it to go sideways, right? So like in that last situation, that would have been a good time to turn it. That way you can just, not have to walk all the way to the side to land it. We can maybe talk about a situation to use that after the game's done. Nice aiming head level. We just
Damn.
no, probably just get him all the way frozen. I think that happened last time too. Is just like freeze him all the way. That way he just can't run away from you, right? Can't get away. There you can probably push the Sigma, right? He doesn't have his team with him. Very nice. Right, I think we're already starting to see a lot of the stuff we talked about already falling into place a little bit. Okay. When they're walking through, we can split them in half when they come through that doorway, or we can wall off the McCree who's like ulted, right? That way he just can't get through. Okay. 10 seconds left. Be perfect opportunity just to go for an ult, right? Exactly. Watch out for the Sigma eat there, right? Almost could have gotten eaten, so just be careful of chucking it in when he has that. But overall, really good. We like already we started to see like a couple things that we were implementing, and we saw like probably like 2 times more just headshots and right clicks landing already, and we saw a little bit more, walls connecting, and just overall is looking a lot more solid with our gameplay already. Now let's just talk about, just for half a second, we'll talk about just how to use the double wall, or the kind of putting it sideways, and then you can go ahead and get into the queue after that. So you're watching the stream?
Yeah.
Yep. So with our wall, we can just click it one more time, and then that's gonna put it the opposite direction. So if we're, for example, trying to wall off this doorway, and we're trying to not have to walk, all the way, like if we have it like this, to wall it off correctly, we'd have to like walk all the way over here. But if we just click it a second time, then we can just wall it off perfectly fine. Or for example, let's say we're trying to wall off like this right here, like where we're trying to, wall it off so that we're walling them off when they come through there, right? If we're like this, how's that going to do that, right? then it doesn't really do anything, and then we'd have to like come all the way around to over here. But if we're trying to do it this way, then that just seems a lot easier, right? Same thing, like we can do it like this way too. If we're trying to wall off this, right? If we're trying to wall it off just it straight, then we'd have to like walk to where this angle, and then that might let them just shoot at us for free, right? It means that they'd see us and they'd be able to shoot at us. But if we just turn it sideways, well, now we can just stand here around the corner, make sure we're not just doing this so they can't see us, because we were kind of doing that when we were on the first point. Right? Instead, just sit here, be patient, wait from the walkthrough, and then once someone walks through, trap card activated, right? You get them for free, right? So that's just how we want to be looking to use that wall, and then we'll get back into another game. So, yeah, we can just go ahead and get into a queue. Why don't we talk about strengths and weaknesses real quick, and kind of what we want to look to work on. Honestly, let's start with ability usage. Our what do you call that? The cryo freeze or whatever, right? Our icicle, right? We're honestly, that looks really solid. Not any real problems with it. Our wall usage though, I would like to see us putting a lot more effort into. So that one, probably I would just make the category wall usage, or I guess just in general put it ability usage, right? And then that is probably gonna come in at like a medium, maybe a medium high, maybe yeah, maybe I put it at a medium high. Let's move on to the ultimate usage. Ultimates, the only thing I'd say with it is that, like, I think our placement of it is pretty good. Make sure adding the wall in, make sure we're not suiciding when we go for it, and then also just try to use it in like some good timing. Let me know when you get in game, by the way. Make sure we're getting some good timing with it, as sometimes we just kind of hold on to it for a little bit, and we want to use it like in good situations. So that one's maybe looking like, I'd probably say ultimate usage is looking like around the same as our wall usage, so maybe like a medium. Maybe we'll just put them both at a medium. Then general mechanics. Honestly, the only things we're seeing is just, it's just lowering your sensitivity, getting the new mouse pad, and then making sure you keeping good crosshair placement, and then also just when we freeze someone, make sure we're shooting faster. And then in your duels against like McCree, make sure you're actually just continuing to freeze him, because we'd kind of like do this, and then we try to go for right click, and then we do this, and we try to go for right click, and then it just meant that we weren't able to finish him off. And then besides that, honestly, mechanics looking, solid enough, right? Besides the things that we've talked about with it, so probably say that's okay. They're all looking like they're in the medium right now. I probably said like that's going in like the middle too, maybe a little bit lower, because I'd say that like already just the sensitivity we've already started to see a lot of improvement with. So because of that fast improvement, I'm gonna assume that it's gonna continue to improve fast, and we'll put that like a low to medium currently, though it is. If we're going off of like the very start of the session, that would probably be like a medium high type of deal. But we've already started to see a lot of improvement with it, and I think it's a pretty slightly easy fix. So we'll put that low to medium. Just making sure you're not in a game yet. Okay, you're not. Then moving on to positioning. Positioning, we want to make sure we're using cover properly. Make sure we're not walking out in the open. Make sure we're standing behind our tanks. Right now we're not standing too far back. Sometimes we're just standing a little bit far back. Make sure, and those are the main things, right? So again, going kind of in the middle. It's just they're all seeming like they're kind of equal-ish. You got a game, all right. They're kind of all seeming equal-ish. Right, and then finally awareness comes in last, and that is looking like, honestly, probably one of the better areas. Honestly, we just want to make sure we're paying attention to our reload, and we're paying attention to we've been paying attention to our health bar pretty well, paying attention to whether or not we've won or lost fights, right? And then besides that, awareness has been looking like maybe low to medium. So just a lot of them, nothing's like insanely terrible. None of them are like insanely good. We're just kind of in the middle with everything. Okay, there we're engaging when we are down like 4 people, right, or 3 people. So there we want to make sure we're just not going in when when we're down a bunch of people, right? Because that's like we talked about before with paying attention to kill feed. If we're going in when we're already down 2 or 3 people, that's essentially walking into a lost fight, right?
I was trying to do the wall thing without them seeing me. But...
Yep. I like joined in like right as we were doing it, so I couldn't see it too well.
Oh
Okay.
god.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty hard to place walls at a distance, so you know that's why being closer is going to be a little bit better for you, right? Just because it's hard to do those ones.
Oh, they have fast.
Ice wall coming up.
See, there we were straight on and we double clicked it, where that would probably be a situation where we would just keep it normal, right? No reason to turn it sideways.
Okay.
动住，不许走。
Enemy contact.
Oh, really nice shots. Um, at the moment I would assume that you are currently tap clicking your right click, so you just go right click, right click, right click, right?
Nerf this. Let's see you get past this.
Oh, there you could potentially have walled off the Diva Bomb, which would stop it from killing your Ana, right? Because it'll tank all the damage. So that's this thing that we could do with our wall pretty easily.
不许走。
Oh, be careful about tossing that straight at a Diva. There are very nice. Right there, we kind of toss it straight at Diva's face. So just be careful about doing that, as that could, you know, end up getting it eaten pretty easily. There yeah, just pay attention to your health bar. You're good to keep shooting unless you're getting low, right?
Oh god.
Good usage of cover on the cart there. I like that. Probably wall these guys off, right? Just like the Diva especially, right?
Let's see you get past this.
Really good. That was a good freeze, because there we had actually killed the Diva or got her out of mech, and then that meant that she wasn't able to eat it. So that one was really good. And we also just getting good with like plopping it straight in the middle of them. So again, I haven't had time to talk about it, but it looks like as though we're tap clicking our right click, whereas we probably want to be holding it down, where we're just going right click, right click, right click, right click, right. It's just gonna speed up how fast we're shooting. What do you say?
Yeah, I didn't mean what you. I didn't understand what you meant before.
Yeah. So it looks like currently or like in the past we've just been like, you know, tapping it, whereas you probably want to hold it down, that way we're shooting faster and doing more damage. Right.
这样可以打死他们。
Get them.
起来吧。 瞧瞧这个。
Yep, just remember, now that we're spamming a little bit more with our right clicks, that before we're going in to try to freeze, that we're reloading, that way we actually have ammo, whereas sometimes we're going in and we, like that one right there where we only had 20 ammo left.
动住，不许走。 I'm on fire.
Nice ultimate. There we use, oh, never mind, I'll keep talking, wait till afterwards.
Okay. It's so hard to move like this because of the.
Mm.
Oh god damn it.
Okay, so, so there we ended up, we threw our ult in, and then we used our ice block when we were kind of full HP, and we just kind of waited it out. Alternatively, there what we could have done was, since we were full HP and we had health to spare, we could have just frozen them even faster, and then that would allow you to have longer to shoot at them, and it would mean that they can't get away from it.
Try.
动住，不许走。Locking them off.
Oh, good job walling that off.
我不是要针对你，别往心里去。
60 seconds.
This will stop them.
Pass into the iris.
Okay, make sure try not to shoot at Zarya's bubbles when she plops them up. The only time we should shoot at them is if we know that we can kill her. So, for example, that situation was different because she was so far overextended that it's fine to shoot at it.
不许走！
Okay, make sure we get in that wall in to stop him from running away, right?
Oh yeah, I totally forgot. I'm sorry.
Come on, everyone, just a little bit longer.
Activating the barrier. Take cover.
Okay, sometimes you can use your wall to protect your team, right? So like for example there, if they got grabbed and you think they need some protection, you can wall off the Zarya from, or like just wall off right in front of them so you can like kind of use it to protect them. Or even like coalescence, I think we did try to do it there, right? When they used the coalescence. Now I think I got cut off a little bit just because the fight happened, so just to reiterate, if a Zarya is just sitting in their side of their team and like normal, usually you're not going to want to shoot at her bubbles because then she can just get a ton of energy for free. But if you sorry, I'm going to leave this so I'm not distracted. But if she is low HP or she's super out of position, then you can shoot at her bubbles because you want to be able to destroy them so you can kill her, right? But you know, it depends on the situation. Right?
Yeah.
You can get into another game again.
Okay.
Okay, I'll just since we've already talked a lot about, oh snap, actually we only have like minutes here, so why don't you just continue. We'll just nah, it's hard to say. We'll see how fast we get into a queue here, but yeah.
I just got into one.
Okay, you just got one. Okay, so yeah, we'll be able to play a game, a minute or two of this.
Okay.
Now arriving at Lijiang Tower.
I forgot. Sorry, you said that.
Hmm?
Did you answer me when asked if there was DPS kind of like with Reinhardt
Yeah,
still?
so I said that not. I said not really. I
Oh,
guess you
okay.
could. I guess you could say Mei is like the closest maybe Reaper, but like it's not really just because tanks and DPS are very you know, have completely different jobs. By the way, it's not letting. Okay, there we go. It wasn't letting me access your character, but yeah, tanks and DPS have pretty different jobs. That's why I was talking about like how you might want to focus on one of them if you're trying to improve because they can be pretty dissimilar in some areas. You know, some things still apply, but not others. Here, it'd probably be best if you went in like the top right room because then it'd be easiest to like that's the condensed area, right? You're a brawl character. You like to be close to people, right? Top right's closer than bottom left. Uh-oh. Yeah, there we got slightly too aggressive. We just kind of got in and got shot by the Junkrat. Besides that, like I said, just we want to come in on the top right because that's going to be the easiest place to wall people, right? Because it's a lot more close quarters, and that's why, like, you as a character who is a close quarters character is going to like to be there better than you're going to like to be on the main point.
Over here.
No. In the white room over there. So the you kind of call it server room or white room. It's like this one right there. Yep, right in here. Because then you look at all the places where you can wall. Right, you can wall right where you're standing. Right, anywhere in here you can wall. Right, it's just a lot more close quarters, which can be really good for you. Okay, you can also wall that little choke point that they're trying to walk through there as well. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, so I'll reiterate if you're not.
Okay.
Okay, we can look for, once they start pushing forwards a little bit, we can look for a wall. Never mind, we're dead.
Damn.
So are
I
you
don't know.
familiar with the term choke?
Like the small place or?
Yeah, a choke is basically like a funnel, right? It's the small area where you have to walk through. So right here when you're coming out of spawn, this is the choke right in front of you, this doorway, this arch, because it's a small little choke area where it funnels them through. Well, make sure we're not walking in when we're down people, right? Pay attention to kill feed, make sure we're watching it. Now it looks like your team's trying to get aggressive and you're using ults, so this is fine. But yeah, in that instance, like probably wasn't a smart idea for your team to push forwards, but if they are, just go with them. Now, this is a lost fight, so you just look to back out, right? Just regroup, wait for them to come back.
Oh, turn it up. Oh, let's break it. Damn!
Watch this.
You have my did someone call for a lift? Огонь по готовности.
Yeah.
Okay, so pretty much any point in that fight probably would have been a really good place to pop your ultimates. Like even like right when we were walking in, right? That would probably be a really good time to use it. Typically, you're not gonna want to wait too long because the longer you wait, the more of a chance that they have to win the fight before you get to use it. So you just want to make sure you're using it earlier in the fight there and not holding on to it. Yeah, because the problem there was just by the time we ended up using it, we just ended up dying like as soon as we did.
Yeah.
Score
Damn.
0-1.
Boom!
I'll be busy soon enough.
Check this out. Look at this team. We're gonna do great. Boom!
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Round 2. Capture the objective.
Mhm.
Flight routine activated.
Enemy turret ahead.
I'm under attack.
Let's see you get past this.
The objective is now.
Alright, so there we were focusing on, we were trying to use our left click on some people who were too far away to use left click on at the very beginning. And then besides that, both our walls just didn't really do much, right? Like the wall on or I guess that's the second wall we might have been using it to get them away from us, which is fine. But the first wall, we didn't really use it in any area that would actually, zone people off. So we want to make sure we're looking to use again, like put the ends on, connect to the ends to something so that they can't just walk around it. Yeah, they were pretty far forwards. Make sure we're grouping up with our team because both of our tanks are walking back when we were trying to walk in. So really making sure we're paying attention. If I need to, oh snap! Oh, you leave this game real quick. I completely forgot that we were pushing the end of the session there.
Oh.
We have like
wait,
we
do
have
I
like
do I leave?
yeah, you can leave the game. Yeah, you don't get punishments unless you do it a ton. Yeah, it's my bad. I completely forgot about that. So we have like 3 minutes left here. We'll just skip the review portion and just do the main points and then wrap up the session from there. So,
Okay.
main points. Number one thing I would probably say is going to be. This is hard. Let's say. This is like it's really hard because they're like really close together. So why don't I kind of want to give you the priorities. Okay, so let's just say number one we'll put at your positioning, just so that we can making sure you're closer to people, making sure you're playing up with your tanks, not so far back. Number two is going to be your awareness. and then awareness. These top three are really close together, so just keep that in mind. Number 2 is going to be awareness. Awareness, just paying attention to kill feed, especially that was one of the biggest ones. Was that, especially like in that last game we were in, was that we just constantly walk in when we didn't have people alive. So we just want to make sure we're not going in and we're paying attention to where our teammates are at. Paying attention when we've won or lost fights. Just as a reminder, it's 1 to 2 people is an advantage or disadvantage. 2 to 3 is a won or lost fight, right? So we're not walking in when we're down 2 to 3 people. And then number 3 is going to be our ability usage. Again, very, very close. Number 3 could be like just as easily be number 1 here. So those top 3 are very, very close. It's kind of like those top 3 kind of tie for a medium-high priority, right? Then finally, number 4 is going to be your probably say your ultimate usage. Make sure we're using our walls to wall people off. Make sure we're not chucking it straight at a diva or sigma who could eat it. Making sure that we're not just using, we're not dying when we're using it. We're using our ice block to stay alive. But then we're also not using it when we're full HP, right? And when we are full HP, that we're trying to double freeze people, right? And then that one is probably like a low to medium priority, and then finally our ability, or sorry, our mechanics. Basically, in the course of like in the course of an hour here, your mechanics seem to have like doubled in how good they are, just off of like the things that we talked about already. So just keep it up. Look to like even go further with it. Keep the crosshair placement up. Keep it at head level. Aim where people are going to be. Lower your sensitivity just a bit more if you would like. I think what would you say you have at currently 7?
Yeah,
Yeah,
7.
7 honestly doesn't seem too terrible. But mess around. Like I sent you the video, mess around with it until you find something that's better for you, and then probably recommend getting a larger mouse pad as well. And then,
Yeah, definitely.
mm,
I
yep.
have I kept having to like move the mouse to the beginning of the mouse pad
Hmm.
because it was running out of place.
Exactly, right. Which is why you're gonna need a bigger mouse pad, right? And then finally, just or no, and then that's pretty much it. So, yep. Any questions on anything we've talked about?
No, um, I think I learned a lot. Thank you. I'll
Yeah,
make sure to remember these things,
no
especially
problemo. So